Hi there, my name is Steve Jones, and I am a captain with the Burlington Fire Department here in Burlington, Ontario, which is where I'm talking to you from today in my home in Burlington. I'm also a master trainer with the Mental Health Commission. I've been with the fire department for 21 years now, just over 21 years, and I've been teaching with the Mental Health Commission for about the last 7. And where that all started was in our organization, the fire department. Historically, we'd not been real great at talking about mental health. And I recognized that there was a real need in our organization. Well, not just me, a number of people did, and that we wanted to do something about it. And so we started looking around for some programs and things like that that we could participate in. And at the same time, we were starting a peer support team. We thought that that would be a good start. And we came across this program called the Working Mind for first responders. And so I kind of put my hand up and said, well, I'll go and take that thing and see what it's all about, see if maybe it's a good fit for our organization. And so I attended a session. And for me, not only was I blown away with the material that was there, it's kind of a good handful of aha moments for me. I recognized that this was something that was going to potentially have a major impact in our organization. But what I wasn't prepared for was the impact that it was going to have on me in my own personal life. I realized sort of sitting there in that session that maybe my mental health wasn't in the great place, the best place it could be either. At the time, I was we had 2 young kids at home. I have 2 boys, very active family, very busy. And I wasn't taking all the time that I needed to kind of take care of myself and manage all of that. Anyhow, fast forward, recognized that this program would be a great fit for our organization. Decided to go and take a train the trainer course with the Mental Health Commission of Canada. And as a result, we rolled this training out to over 200 members in our organization, 200 first responders. Forward from there, we've then delivered it to another 300 or 500 or so employees in the city of Burlington. And the change we've seen has been pretty incredible. In my work with the commission, they've traveled me all over the globe, delivering this program in a number of different organizations, all sorts of different sectors. And if there's one thing I think that's constant in all of it is that everybody's got stuff going on. And so in the time frame, sort of teaching this course and traveling around, a thing that keeps coming back over and over is this idea of trajectory. Everybody's on one. And this word came to me, a real good friend of mine, who I happen to be a hockey coach of his son, took me aside at the end of a season and said, Steve, I want you to understand the power that you as a hockey coach and as a dad and a member of the community kind of have over other people's lives. I was like, He said, this idea of trajectory. And he shared this idea, this concept that everybody's on a path, right? And it doesn't take a whole lot, right, to just nudge trajectory, which might not seem like a whole lot here and now in a moment. But if we follow that trajectory out to 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, the difference that these little minor adjustments can make now, that we make now, can have in the long run, the power of this word. And for me, that's what this program delivered. We talk a lot about sort of reducing stigma and saying, hey, it's okay to talk about our mental health. We're all in this storm of life, and sometimes there's big waves and small waves, but that we can talk about it, and that's okay, right? That we all, our brain is just a physical part of our body. So how is it any different than something's wrong with a muscle or an organ? We talk about that. Well, why can't we talk about this muscle or organ? And again, I go back to our organization. We were never good at it. We were the helpers. We didn't need the help. We gave the help. And so, that's, I think, in a lot of categories, a lot of workplaces, people kind of feel that way, that this isn't necessarily something that's okay to talk about. So a huge part of this program, first and foremost, was to break down stigma, just to get rid of that idea that it's not okay to talk about this, that somehow there's something wrong with me if I'm not okay. And this is where, you saw some of the massive changes happen in an organization. If you went back in our place 7 years ago, we didn't have the conversation about mental health. And now it's not an uncommon thing to have 2 individuals meet in a hallway and say, hey, how you doing? You didn't seem a little off today. I'm just checking in on you. And to say, oh yeah, I've got this stuff going on, and people sharing their counselors and talking about resources and coping strategies and all these things. And as a result, the difference it's made in our own organization, but in all these little individual trajectories. So everybody's individual life, healthier homes, healthier workplaces, right? The trajectory changes and we move to this kind of this better place. Um, if I can sort of, one of the interesting things about the Working Mind program that we talk about is we talk about this thing called the mental health continuum, and that we're all on it. We move up and down this thing on a regular basis, and there's different categories: healthy, and then reacting, and injured, and ill, and all the way over there. And that, through the course of our hourly, daily, weekly, yearly, monthly lives, whatever it is, we all move up and down this thing. And that's both, that's the beauty of it, is it doesn't matter if I'm all the way over here, I can move back. But one of the neat things is it talks about signs and indicators. And this kind of becomes the way that you can have a conversation with the people who are important to you, whether they're on your team or in your family. And I remember I learned about this thing that first time I took the course, and kind of, these aha moments. And because I recognized that I was living somewhere between reacting and injured, which is not where I want to be. I'm a happy, silly, goofy kind of individual. But that I was living a lot of my time in those areas, I wasn't really able to see it, because there's a line that I heard once from somebody that says, you can't read a label from inside the bottle. And that was me. I was in the bottle. I couldn't see it. And the facilitator who taught us that day said, tonight, I want you to go home and I want you to share this mental health continuum with somebody who's important in your life. Okay, well, it's got to be my wife. That's my most important person in my life. Kids are pretty good too. But so I went home that night and I said to my wife, her name is Tammy, I said, I learned about this thing today. It's kind of cool. You move up and down it. There's these signs and indicators, so you can sort of see where you're at, how you're doing. And I think I might be living between yellow and orange. And she said, as only a wife can say, I know. I've been telling you that for 6 months. So, it's an interesting thing, right? Because it opened the conversation for us, a conversation that hadn't really happened that way before, or at least I wasn't able to hear it or see it because I was immersed in everything that I had going on. But then when you could actually see it, when you could get pulled out of the bottle and shown the label and realize, hey, I'm on a path that's not necessarily the path I want to go down. And to then realize that I've got all these people around me to support me and resources in my organization to do the same thing. Pretty powerful. So I'm eternally grateful for this tool because it changed my trajectory. If I think back to that first conversation after receiving the training in my own organization, sort of wanting to come back and share with my team, hey, I learned this thing, pretty cool. There's some coping strategies, talk about stress. It's okay to talk, all those sort of core concepts. Meant this to be this 15-minute kind of high-level conversation about here's what it's all about, and hopefully we bring this forward to our organization. Well, that 15-minute conversation turned into over 2-hour conversation where folks shared, maybe I've got someone at home that's living with anxiety and I didn't really know how to talk about it, or I've got a son or a daughter that lives with pretty significant depression and we've never really talked about it. And from a leadership perspective, I was in the role of a captain, to really connect with your team in this different way. We're really say, oh, I've got your back and I care about you and all these things. But now it's to another level, right? It's this sort of next level of care, compassion, concern, and understanding. And so I think that's, again, then 7 years experience of doing this in all these different organizations to see these little micro adjustments to trajectory for an individual, that when you go back there 3 months later to talk to a different group and people come up to you in the hallway and say, Steve, I went home that night after our training and I talked to my son about the stress performance curve or the mental health continuum. And I shared this thing and we had this super meaningful conversation where we talked about the things that were on our minds or causing us distress. And we connected on a different level, and not just, at work, but at home and with friends and family and so on and so forth. And that for me has been the piece. Life is challenging, life is difficult, and we all have things that, we hear a lot. People will say things like, well, we're all in the same boat. We have this stuff, we're all in the same boat. And for me, that statement never kind of rang true, because I like to think of it more as we're all in the same storm, the storm of life, and that everybody's boat is a little bit different. And some folks are standing on top of a Navy destroyer and they're plowing through the waves and everything's fine. They don't feel anything, totally safe and secure. Whereas other folks, they're in a wooden dinghy And I know at times in my life, I've been in that wooden dinghy, bailing out water, just trying to stay afloat. Yeah, life's busy and it's hectic and it's stressful and all these things. And, but it doesn't have to take you down, right? That we can, for one another, from our ship, if it's buoyant, toss a life ring out to that individual who's in the wooden dinghy and help them stay afloat. And I talk about that often is, wherever you are in the storm right now, wouldn't it be nice if you could just moor your ship together with someone else's and be buoyant together and navigate that storm together? And I think that's been the most rewarding piece of this whole experience, is to watch just people come together and share and talk and support one another, and to navigate that storm of life. So interestingly enough, I'll just share this piece also. You finish a training session with a group of folks, and I say training session, but really it's a discussion. It's a discussion where people are just talking. That's what is also an amazing part of the program. People are just talking, and the session finishes, whether it's an employee session or a manager session, 4 hours, 8 hours, 2 days, 3 days, whatever it is that we're doing. The number of times you hear, I needed that. That's something I needed today, here and now. That's a pretty powerful thing, and pretty rewarding thing to be able to be a part of. So, I guess maybe in summary, I wasn't on a great trajectory. And as a result, maybe my household wasn't on the best trajectory. My organization wasn't on a great trajectory. We put some things in place. We opened the door for conversation. And when we opened the door for conversation, it made a massive difference. I say confidently that this has been the most rewarding work I've ever done in my life. I feel like it makes a difference. It matters. B, I'm 100% confident that I have saved more lives sharing this information than I ever have in 2 centuries, or 2 decades, I should say, of being a first responder. And, I think that's a pretty powerful thing. So, I mean, for me, I like to say thank you. I say this all the time to the Mental Health Commission. I say thank you for putting together the programs that you have, for, trying to put them out there into the world, to share them with different organizations and different people. I say thank you to health partners and their donors for really making mental health a priority, because I think, we all recognize that it's pretty significant.